Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope you are having a fantastic day. I'm going to share some great news with you. I'm trying to squeeze in the most enjoyment I can in the last couple of weeks here of Canadian summer. Now, it'll probably last more than a couple of weeks, but usually by September long weekend is when we start thinking about fall in Canada. Picture behind me is me enjoying a beautiful shell beach on the west coast of Vancouver Island. And if you look at the sky in this picture, if you're from the West Coast, you would describe this as blue sky. There is a little bit of blue sky right there. And you can tell I'm in a great mood because I have some fantastic news to share with you. And I don't know if it's been covered in the same way that I'm going to cover it, but this is just over the top fantastic news. Reported here on Yahoo Finance, the headline reads, "Canada interested in supplying LNG to Germany." Now that headline itself may not knock you off your seats, but just bear with me and let me go through the story here. Canada is interested in supplying Germany with liquefied natural gas, provided there is demand and Canadian infrastructure can be built. Natural Resource Minister Tim Hodgson told business leaders in Berlin on Wednesday. Our new Natural Resource Minister, under the leadership of Mark Carney, said, and I quote him here, "Unlike the previous Canadian government, which closed the door to LNG exports, Prime Minister Carney's government has opened it. If the demand is here and the infrastructure is built, Canada will deliver." And it wasn't just our natural resource minister that made these comments. Mark Carney himself is visiting Germany, and here reported on Global News, the headline reads, "Canada wants to sell LNG to Germany. Critics say it's a race against time." It's a race against time because other countries that are rich in natural gas are ahead of Canada in this new export industry. Speaking alongside German Chancellor Friedrich Merz in Berlin, Carney said his government will make announcements in the next 2 weeks on new port infrastructure funding, which could mark the first major national interest projects approval under legislation passed in the spring, Bill C-5. Carney specifically identified the Contresor expansion of the Port of Montreal, which is set to increase container capacity by as much as 40%. Now just think about that, increasing port capacity in Montreal by 40%. This is getting Canada ready to export more to Europe rather than the United States. This is an excellent move to help diversify our economy. But he goes on to say, and revitalizing the Churchill port in northern Manitoba. This expansion of the Churchill port, in Mark Carney's words, is, quote, would open up enormous LNG export potential plus other opportunities for shipping critical minerals and metals to Europe, creating a new port effectively. Speaking to reporters in Berlin at a separate event, Energy Minister Tim Hodgson said, "The goal being sold to Canadian proponents to German buyers is being able to ship in as little as 5 years." So Mark Carney and our government has effectively identified one of these nation-building projects that will be fast-tracked using this new legislation, C-5, that has been passed, and that is to expand the port in Montreal to enable more exports and diversifying our trade mainly towards Europe, and basically building a new export facility in Churchill, Manitoba, which can handle LNG exports. And they're talking about it being built and operational in 5 years. This is huge. This is huge news. And not only are these projects that they're talking about going to cost in the tens of billions of dollars, but they'll have the capacity to increase Canada's exports by a significant amount. And the idea of exporting liquefied natural gas through Manitoba, a port in Churchill, would give Canada a more direct route to ship that LNG to Europe, because right now, the one port that we have operational is on the west coast in Kitimat, and we ship our LNG to Japan and Asia. The significance of these projects shouldn't be underestimated. Behind me here is a map of the Coastal Link LNG project, which is now operational, and it basically connects gas infrastructure from Dawson Creek in northeast BC by pipeline, the green line that you see there, to Kitimat on the west coast. It's loaded on LNG transport ships and it's shipped to Japan and Asia. This project, when it was completed, cost about $40 billion. It was by far Canada's single largest development project in Canada's history. and it's capable of exporting 14 million tons per year. It's the first project that has been completed on this list here of potential future projects that Canada can build, which would increase our export capacity, all these projects that are listed here, up to 50 million tons per annum. The second one on the list here, that's also 14 million tons per annum, just represents an increase in production in the infrastructure that we've already built, just by increasing the pressure in the pipes that are already built. So very quickly here, Canada can get to 28 million tons per year of LNG exports from the West Coast. And if we build more infrastructure and another LNG plant in Churchill, Manitoba, we could increase this number even more. So we have the potential to ramp up very quickly here. And you may ask, why did this headline that I read say, critics say it's a race against time? That's a fair comment, because Canada is behind in this LNG export business. Why are we behind? Because up till recently, it's been very easy for us to just sell every molecule of natural gas that we have in this country to the United States, because our infrastructure is connected to the United States. They're our biggest export market. You just put the gas into a pipeline and you ship it to the United States. Now, the United States cleverly has built their own LNG export facilities, and all of those facilities are in the Gulf of Mexico. So they have the advantage of shipping to the Atlantic Ocean and towards Europe. We built our first facility on the Pacific Ocean, and we have the advantage going to Asia. But we have some competition in the Asian LNG market. And that competition comes from our friends in Australia who have built, now get this number, 10 operating LNG facilities. Australia has already built 10 operational LNG facilities, and they're somewhat leading the world in LNG exports. Now, why have they built 10 and we've only built one? Well, because Australia is an island, and before the technology to cool natural gas into a liquid form and transport it on ships, before that technology was available, Australia had to be very careful how much natural gas, they are rich in natural gas resources, they had to be careful on how much they developed, because they only needed to develop what they could use domestically. So the growth of the Australian natural gas industry was very slow for many, many years. When new LNG technology unlocked the potential to export natural gas using ships, Australia jumped on that immediately. And as I've just mentioned, they've built 10 LNG export facilities. Here they are on this map. You can see where they're located, the blue dots, and the number inside each blue dot represents the million tons per year that they're exporting. And if you remember, the export capacity of Canada's first LNG export facility is 14 million tons per year, and that can be doubled to 28. And if we build a new facility of similar size, which could potentially export 28 million tons per year, we could very rapidly catch up to Australia in this business of exporting natural gas. The article in the Globe and Mail here continues and explains some of the reasons why Canada does not have access to the East Coast or the Atlantic for LNG. A planned expansion of the St. John LNG facility in New Brunswick that would allow for export died in 2023 when the Spanish company behind the proposal balked at rising costs. There was another option to build an LNG facility in Quebec, but the Quebec government rejected a proposal for an LNG facility in Quebec's Saguenay region in 2021 amid widespread opposition to the project. Yet in recent months, Premier François Legault has repeatedly said that Quebecers are more open to fossil fuel projects in the province due to the ongoing trade war with the United States. But the key bit of information that I've already covered in this video, and I have to say it again because this is huge news, we don't tend to have our Prime Minister make these huge announcements just in a matter-of-fact way without a huge ceremony. Mark Carney just basically announced this yesterday while he was in Berlin. He specifically identified the port expansion in Montreal and revitalizing the Churchill port in northern Manitoba. And in his own words, he said that the port in Churchill, Manitoba would open up enormous LNG potential. So I just have to say this because in the world of politics, information comes out slowly and you can go for years and years without major announcements. This guy has moved at lightning speed. You have to put this in perspective. He was just elected a matter of months ago. Immediately after being elected, he went on a worldwide tour and met leaders from all over the world and had discussions about trade. Parliament was recalled, and in a matter of weeks, they passed new legislation Bill C-5, which gives the government power to fast-track nation-building projects. Within a few weeks after that, the Prime Minister himself met with Indigenous leaders and got them on board. And now, while we're on holidays, he's in Berlin, and Mark Carney has already announced those projects, naming two specifically, while he's in the country, that will probably be buying the exports that will be going through these new infrastructure projects. The market for our LNG and for our port expansion in Montreal will be Europe, and Germany is Europe's biggest economy. This is fantastic news for Canada. And if we keep at this rate, if we're actually going to get these projects built in a matter of 5 years, we could have all of this stuff ready right around the time when the big bombastic buffoon down south is gone. So no going back to the way things were before. We are seriously moving forward to diversify Canada's economy. If we expand our port in Montreal, if we build new infrastructure in a port in Churchill, Manitoba, and other projects that haven't been announced yet, if we get Canada ready to be able to export to the rest of the world, like Australia has to, we are going to have the best of both worlds. We're going to have the biggest consumer market just south of us that'll still want everything we have, even though the dumbass that runs that country says, well, we don't need anything Canada has. Yeah, right, you don't need it, but you're still buying lots of it, and the United States will still want to buy all of our raw materials because they're the biggest economy in the world. The only problem now is they're going to have competition. We're going to have other buyers, and we're going to have infrastructure so that we can get the best deal from anywhere in the world. We're going to have a choice of markets. It's not going to be good enough for the United States to just say, well, we'll take your natural gas. They're going to have to bid for it now because we have the potential to sell it to Japan. We'll have the potential to sell it to Europe. And then we can sit back and say, well, how much? How much are you willing to pay? And that's going to put Canada in a hugely envious position. The rest of the world will be so envious because the whole world needs what we have. We're rich in natural resources. They will need what we have. We'll have the potential to export it to them, but we'll also have the biggest market in the world attached to us with the lowest transportation cost in the world to ship to the United States. So we're going to be the export superpower in the world. And this is something that we should have done decades ago. I know there's going to be comments like, why didn't the Liberal government last time do this 5 years ago? And I could say, well, why didn't the Stephen Harper government do this 15 years ago? Why didn't Brian Mulroney do this 30 years ago? Why didn't Jean Chrétien and Paul Martin? Why didn't any government in the past 50 years do this? And the answer is easy because, and that is the answer, because it was easy. It was just easy to sell the stuff to the United States. It was just easy to put things in a pipeline or put things on a truck and drive it across the border. 20 years ago, Australia was a 0% player in the world natural gas business because they couldn't connect to any other country with pipelines. But now they're one of the top LNG exporting nations in the world because they saw the opportunity. It was the only way that they could do it. And they did it aggressively, and they're in a very good position now. But Canada can catch up, and geographically, Canada is in the best position in the world. Connected to the biggest consumer market by land to the south, connected to the Atlantic Ocean, connected to the Pacific Ocean, connected to the Arctic Ocean. We are basically the hub for the world. And if you don't see the tremendous potential that could be unleashed here, if you don't see how big this news is, well, then you shouldn't really follow politics because this is about as exciting as it gets. Okay, this is like being in the casino and you pull that lever, ace of hearts, ace of hearts, ace of hearts, ace of hearts, and then all the money starts coming out. Well, actually, if that happened to you, you might think that would be more exciting than this. But my point is, don't underestimate how great this news is. We are on the right track. And every story I do for you, every video I do for you, as I read this stuff and as I keep up with the path that our country is on, I just get more and more optimistic about our future. We are doing exactly the right things. And if we can keep up this momentum, we're going to be unstoppable. Forget the doom and gloom sayers. There will always be those echo chambers of people that are just, they're mad about everything. Everything's wrong. Everything's terrible. Sure, if you want to be in one of those echo chambers, go ahead. You must have a really, really terrible, stressful life. The reality here is that we're on the right track and our leaders are doing the right thing. And we should be 100% behind them. And generally speaking, All the premiers are behind this. They all want to get projects that will benefit their provinces on this fast track list of nation building projects. Even Daniel Smith is trying to get LNG and oil pipelines on this list. You don't hear any complaining from the other federal parties, the Bloc Québécois, the NDP. I haven't heard Elizabeth May complaining. The Conservative Party itself, the official opposition, voted unanimously to support Bill C-5. So everyone in Canada is behind this effort, except for one guy who just got reelected in Battle River, Alberta. But he's just going to be complaining to his base. His base will be happy with the continual doom and gloom, but most Canadians are going to see past this now and realize that we're on the right track. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Subscribe to my channel if you're enjoying the content. If you want to support the channel monthly, monetarily, consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button below. Take care, everybody, and I will catch you all on the next one.